It is game time, baby. We are 1 week away from actual football players in red and gold on the field when it really matters. I cannot wait. I'm so hyped about it as the world will turn their attention to the National Football League this week. I've got a great move that the 49ers already made that is looking even better, plus 2 other takes that I think you'll be hyped on as well. Hit subscribe if you're looking for daily 49ers content. As always, appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I've been having a super fun time talking to you guys and chatting it up yesterday in the live stream, all that good stuff. But it is Seahawks week, guys. Let me know how you're feeling about the Seahawks this week. 49ers traveling to Seattle to play the Dirty Birds. Let me know what you're thinking right now. I'm seeing them consistently ranking around 3rd or 4th in the division. So not super highly, although there are a couple of exceptions out there. And in general, I'm feeling pretty good on it. The weird thing about the Seahawks is they're probably the least predictable team right now in terms of the player movement. The change in offensive coordinator, change at quarterback, they've got big changes, change at wide receiver. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what this team actually looks like. I don't think anybody really knows what they're going to look like. And I think that's similar to what a lot of people are saying about the 49ers. I think on offense, actually we have a lot of answers to what our offense is going to look like. Defensively, a lot more question marks. But I think it's going to be massively improved from last year. So I feel really good about it going into the game. That's personal. That's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate your takes, and I look forward to seeing them as always. But let's start off with Richard Sherman. Talking about Kyle Shanahan, because I'm hearing still to this day, I'm still hearing a lot of negativity around Kyle Shanahan. Heard some negativity on the Rich Eisen show about Kyle Shanahan, not from Rich himself, from somebody else. But the point is, people are doubting this guy. And Richard Sherman was featured in the latest not Brick by Brick. That's what it used to be called. The Build is what it's called now. He was featured on the latest Build episode 3. And Joel Soria from NBC Sports wrote about it. So I'm just going to take his quote instead of playing the audio of it for copyright reasons. But here's what Richard Sherman said. I think what separates Kyle Shanahan from other coaches in this league is preparation. Just like anyone else that is great at what they do, there's a little bit of madness and obsession to them. He's obsessed with the game. He's obsessed with the players. He's obsessed with how he can impact the game in a positive way and put his players in a position to be successful. Everything that a coach can do to put this team in position to be as successful as they can be, I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan is doing or attempting to do that. He also injects confidence into his players. He has a lot of respect and regard for his players. He has a lot of expectations for them. And I think he's got it from his dad and being around the game for a long time. He has a lot of respect for what goes into playing this game and what goes into executing at a high level. So he takes some of the burden himself, but he also expects a lot from his guys, from his best guys. Okay, that's the quote from Richard Sherman, talking very, very highly of this guy. I like Richard Sherman this week because Richard Sherman played for the Seahawks and the 49ers. So his perspective is especially important this week. So I'm obviously paying very close attention to everything Sherman is saying this week. But, he's just one player and one experience with Shanahan, but talking very highly about how Shanahan is just so different from so many other coaches in the NFL. That is something I massively respect. I was excited to hear it. It is not the subject of today's video, but it was so good that I couldn't leave it out. We had to talk about it. And I'm curious where you guys are out on this. The narrative around Kyle Shanahan is he can't get it done. He's not going to be able to get that Lombardi. And I think that's kind of a crazy idea. I've told you guys before, I'm also a diehard Liverpool fan. That's like my favorite soccer team, have been for most of my life. And when I look at Liverpool had Jurgen Klopp come in as the manager for a long time. And Jurgen Klopp was that guy kind of like Shanahan, where he had that kind of reputation. Like he can get you to the game, but he can't win it. And I think that's a crazy thing to say, which, by the way, was not true of Jurgen Klopp either. But I don't think that's a fair thing to say because getting to the game is the hardest part. Getting there is by far the hardest part. Whether or not you win the game, obviously, until you win the game, everyone's going to say you can't get it over the line. But do we really think in a game that is won and lost by inches, do we really think Kyle Shanahan's just not able to execute in the last game of this? He can execute all the other times. Like that's kind of a weird idea personally. I don't think it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from. I understand, the arguments. Okay. I get it. There's heartache involved. There's emotion involved with going to the Super Bowl and losing and then going back and then losing again. I'm not even going to talk about the Atlanta game. That's ridiculous. I don't think you can blame that on one guy. But I do think you can say, hey, understanding the new overtime rules is kind of important. And you can blame the coach for that. I'm not saying he's not responsible for mistakes that he's made. But does that mean that he then can't win the big one? Because wouldn't they have said the same thing in Philadelphia when they got rid of a coach who's now won a bunch of trophies over at the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid? I'm just saying, like, until he wins one, I get it. You can make your claim that he doesn't, he just isn't quite good enough to get there. But it's like, yeah, but it's not like I'd rather have somebody else in here. It's not like I'd rather trade for a different coach, like fire Kyle and bring somebody else in. That's crazy talk too. So that's just my personal opinion. Richard Sherman seems to think very, very highly of Kyle Shanahan and what sets him apart from other coaches. I look forward to seeing your takes on that one. The San Francisco 49ers made a decision last year that received a lot of heat for it. Okay. And you know what? I'm doing two things at the same time, I just realized. So I'm going to go forward, and then I'm going to come backward because I realized I just did that. The San Francisco 49ers made a decision last year that they received a lot of heat for over the likes of Leggett, Coleman, McConkey, Fisk, DeJean. The 49ers selected an elite route runner with great hands in Ricky Pearsall. Fast forwarding to this training camp, everything is looking pretty great between Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall, as good as it could ever look. The two biggest standout receivers in camp this year for sure were George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall. These were the guys that Brock Purdy had the most rapport with, the guys that he was throwing the most to, and that's great news. Well, Ben Solak, not my favorite analyst from ESPN, but when he's talking about the 49ers, and I agree with him, my ears perk up a little bit because I know he's very, very critical of the 49ers. He picked Ricky Pearsall as his X factor for 2025, which is a good sign to 49ers fans. It should be, because of the wide receiver room and how shaky it kind of looks right now. Here's what he had to say. Hey, guys. The season is back, and you might want to make your football watching experience a little more interesting this season with DraftKings Sportsbook. Whether you're interested in the spread or you're excited about that anytime TD opportunity with your favorite player, football is back, and you don't need to look any further than DraftKings. My partners over at DraftKings just upped the ante for you. New customers can sign up today, place a $5 bet, and get $300 in bonus bets just by using my promo code STSF. This weekend, there are going to be some epic matchups. Who are you going to be watching? Who do you feel like is destined for a massive game? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with everything from futures to same-game parlays. They have you covered before the game and live right in the middle of the action. The next great touchdown is coming, and if you're looking for a place to make it a little more interesting, sign up today with DraftKings Sportsbook, place a $5 bet, and get $300 in bonus bets using my promo code STSF. On one hand, it feels as if any wideout can succeed in Kyle Shanahan's offense. On the other hand, the 49ers wide receiver room hasn't been this thin in a while. With Deebo Samuel now on the Commanders and Brandon Aiyuk now not expected to return until week 6 after his complex right knee surgery, San Francisco desperately needs Pearsall to immediately shoulder a bigger portion of the offensive pie. Pearsall ended the season strong, 14 catches on 18 targets for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns in the final 2 games, but was quiet beforehand. Mostly fair. Of course, he was recovering from a gunshot wound for much of training camp. For much of this year's offseason program, he has been dealing with a hamstring injury. Okay, mostly agree. With Juwan Jennings also nursing a calf injury, the 49ers wide receiver room is extremely touch and go. San Francisco needs Pearsall to both be healthy and capable of providing that late season production on a weekly basis if it wants its offense to return to its league leading ways. I'm going to disagree with another thing. There's a lot that I disagree with Ben Solak. Firstly, I don't think Ricky Pearsall's success is the only reason that the 49ers are successful or not on offense. I think that's way too simplistic of a view. You've got way too many other ways the 49ers can move the ball up the field between Christian McCaffrey, between George Kittle, between different sets. I was talking to a buddy at church today about the 49ers. He's a 49ers fan. And we were just talking about think about it for a second. Like if you want to be in 22 personnel, if you want to be in 21 personnel, like the 49ers have a lot of options with the guys they brought in, namely Luke Farrell. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about the 49ers offense right now. It might not click on all cylinders because they haven't been playing through preseason, so it might be a little bit of a rough start, but I'm not worried about this offense. This offense is going to be just fine. They're going to find their rhythm, and they're going to look just fine. Genuinely not at all concerned. Ricky Pearsall, as a major part of it, I am super, super hopeful that's the case. His ability to be an elite route runner and great hands, Kyle Shanahan just said the other day how great his hands are. Like, this is really important to the 49ers. You can't go out there without targets. You have to have targets. And if they scheme against you because they think you can't throw it to your wideouts, you need wideouts who can actually go out there and catch the ball. I get it, right? I'm not trying to oversimplify it myself either. But I think Solak has taken a little bit of a short take here, in my opinion. What I love about what Solak says is the importance and value that Ricky Pearsall had at the end of last season and if he can stay healthy this season. And we talked about this the other day. Ricky Pearsall, for the vast majority of last season, did prove that he can get hit by NFL players, that he can get up after getting hit by NFL players, and he can be consistent and keep coming back week after week. So once you get past all of the injury stuff from the beginning of the season, namely a gunshot wound, he actually managed very well to stay healthy. Now, there's a question mark, of course, around the one from training camp, but then after that, I wouldn't even say that it was the majority of training camp, or however Solak said it there. I think he actually came back from and did really, really strongly in training camp. So I feel really good about Ricky Pearsall, and I'm really excited about seeing him out there against the Seattle Seahawks. He has to prove it on the field, as they all do, so I'm not trying to be, super negative or whatever toward Ben Solak, but I feel really good about it. Honestly, that's just my personal opinion. One other move the 49ers made that is also showing to be a big move, it's looking really good right now, is this guy right here, Upton Stout. Now, several ESPN analysts banded together to make a 2025 NFL rookie guide, a cheat sheet to the rookies that matter the most in the NFL right now. And you might be surprised to see who was left off and put on that list. Let's talk about some players who were left off. You can obviously see on the screen who was put on that list, but left off that list, number 11 pick, Mykel Williams, who should, in my opinion, based on things like Baldy and several ESPN analysts in the past, have said Mykel Williams should be a player that you're considering opposite of Nick Bosa. Remember that. That's a huge part of this. But that Mykel Williams should be a player you're thinking of as your defensive rookie of the year kind of candidate, kind of player. That's the kind of talent Mykel Williams is going to bring to the 49ers. And because he joins a defensive line that still has a prime Nick Bosa, you'd have to imagine that has to help his chances too to be wildly successful this year. So I'm really excited about Mykel Williams, of course. And then you've got he was not on the list, to be clear. Number 43, Alfred Collins. He could have been on that list too, but I understand he got a slow start, so I'll look aside that one. Pick number 75, Nick Martin. Not on any of the lists that were created in here. But Upton Stout, pick 100, was on the list. He was picked as a top, I think they had 5 different players for under-the-radar rookies. And Upton Stout was a top 5 under-the-radar rookie this season, heading into this season. Your pick 100. There's a lot of players that I guess under the radar by default, you kind of pick players who maybe aren't that first-round caliber player or first-round drafted talent. And Upton Stout is one of those guys. Here is what they said about Upton Stout. The slot cornerback position in San Francisco was among the team's top needs heading into the draft. Finding Stout in the 3rd round allowed the 49ers to check off that box early. He is undersized, 5'9", 181 pounds, but also feisty and fast with excellent short area quickness. Stout has been sidelined recently with a calf injury, but he should be the starting slot cornerback when healthy. So an under-the-radar cornerback, under-the-radar rookie, I should say, is nickel corner Upton Stout. Love this pick. I think everybody loves this pick because all we have heard about Upton Stout when he's been on the field is how great he is. Everybody's talking about his Superman pass breakups and what he has done so far. So, yeah, you should be really hyped on him, and he's a player that people are sleeping on just in general. People do not realize the value that he's going to bring this team. He's undersized, and there are plenty of players throughout sports history who have been undersized and and undervalued until they've proven otherwise. And I think Upton Stout is going to be one of those guys that proves otherwise. That's just my personal take. I look forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments as always. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this video. I got my screen out of order and all that good stuff. But as I said at the very, very beginning, we're 7 days away from the Seattle Seahawks. And I keep wanting to say coming to town. They're not coming to town. We're going to their town. But I'm really excited about the Seattle Seahawks game. I genuinely cannot be more excited for a home opener. Season opener. You'd rather not have to play a big rival in your season opener. But what could tell us more about what the 49ers have and what the Seahawks have than facing them in week 1 when no one has any film on these guys yet on what exactly this team's going to look like? Nobody has any film on what the 49ers defense is going to look like outside of guys like Fred Warner, obviously, and General Lenore. But we really haven't seen Demo have to just be or get to be, I should say, just a lockdown corner. We haven't been able to see what this 49ers defensive line could look like. And we haven't seen for a long time now what a 49ers defensive line should look like because last year was absolutely atrocious. So there's going to be so much to look for. We obviously have a couple young linebackers who are going to be coming in there and setting the tone as well. And namely, D. Winters is a guy to be watching. He'll be out on the field quite a bit. Absolutely earned that spot. And so we'll be watching him a lot next to Fred Warner. And then, of course, who's coming in at Sam? We talked in the live stream on Saturday about Luke Gifford. He's a guy that I think is a cornerstone for the special teams and could become the starting Sam this year. So that's interesting. But then you've got guys like Tatum Bethune who are like, I'm going to make this roster. You aren't going to forget about me. So I'm excited. I can't wait. This is going to be so exciting. And I look forward to the whole week leading up to the game. I also look forward to the weeks beyond that. Once we actually have some real visual data on what this team is looking like, what they're going to be capable of, how they're going to be challenging for the NFC this year. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend.